The breaking point for 400 years, humanity had played by the rules. When they first ventured beyond their solar system and discovered the vast network of alien civilizations, they made a choice. They would be different. They would be better. The Galactic Coalition welcomed them cautiously. Humans were young, unpredictable, and came from a world the galaxy classified as a Class 9 death planet. Earth was a nightmare compared to most homeworlds. Extreme weather, violent tectonics, aggressive predators, and a history soaked in warfare. But humanity promised they had left all that behind. They signed every treaty. They accepted every inspection. When the Zentari claimed a star system humans had discovered first, Earth simply smiled and moved on. When the Draxian Confederacy demanded humans pay tariffs that no other species paid, humanity wrote the checks without complaint. When other races mocked them for turning battleships into cargo haulers and weapons factories into hydroponic farms, humans just kept planting their gardens. The galaxy called them the cultivators. Everywhere humans went, life followed. They transformed dead moons into forests. They seeded oceans on barren worlds. They created nature preserves and asteroid fields. It was strange behavior for a spacefaring civilization, but most species found it harmless. Some found it admirable. Many found it weak. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Arvis Prime and watched the twin suns set over fields of golden wheat. This colony had been her home for 12 years. She had watched it grow from a handful of prefab shelters to a thriving city of 4.7 million souls. Arvis Prime was everything humanity dreamed of. Clean cities powered by fusion reactors. Schools where children learned mathematics and music. Hospitals that treated every species without charge. Art galleries, theaters, and parks where families spent their evenings. The colony even had a zoo featuring animals from 24 worlds. Carefully preserved and protected, Elena's daughter Maria was 7 years old. She wanted to be a xenobiologist when she grew up. Last week, she had presented a school project about the native moss species on Arvis Prime. Elena had never been prouder. The communication console beeped. Elena turned from the window and activated the display. The face that appeared made her stomach tighten. Ambassador Thraz of the Krillian Empire. His species resembled massive crustaceans, with chitinous plates covering their bodies and multiple eyes that never seemed to blink all at once. Commander Vasquez, Thraz said. His translator converted his clicking speech into flat, emotionless words. I speak on behalf of the Krillian High Command. Arvis Prime lies within territory claimed by our empire. You have 72 hours to evacuate all human presence from this system. Elena kept her voice steady. Ambassador, Arvis Prime was designated open territory by the Galactic Coalition. We filed all proper claims 18 years ago. Our settlement is completely legal. Legal is a matter of interpretation, Thraz replied. The Krillian Empire has re-examined ancient navigational charts. We have determined this system was explored by our ancestors 3,000 years ago. Therefore, it belongs to us. Your presence here is trespassing. Ambassador, please. We have 4.7 million people here. Families, children, elderly citizens. We need time to negotiate. Let us bring this before the coalition. Negotiation is unnecessary. Evacuation is mandatory. 72 hours. The transmission ended. Elena immediately contacted Earth. The response came from Director Chen, head of the Colonial Administration. His face showed the weariness of someone who had fought this battle too many times. We're filing an emergency petition with the coalition, Chen said. But, Elena, you need to prepare for the worst. Start evacuation procedures immediately. We can't evacuate 4.7 million people in 72 hours. We don't have enough ships. Do what you can. We're scrambling every available transport. And, Elena, the Krillians have done this before. To the Perixi, to the Shen, to half a dozen minor species. They make impossible demands. Then they take what they want. But they've never attacked a major coalition species. We're hoping they're bluffing. Elena spent the next 72 hours in controlled chaos. Transport ships arrived in a steady stream, loading terrified colonists. But the mathematics were brutal. Even with every ship Earth could spare, they could only evacuate 300,000 people. The rest would have to stay and hope for diplomatic intervention. Maria helped pack their apartment. She didn't understand why they had to leave. Elena tried to explain, but how do you tell a 7-year-old that the galaxy they were taught to trust might let them die? The 72 hours expired. Elena stood in the command center with the 4 million people who couldn't leave. She broadcast a final message to the Krillian fleet that had appeared at the system's edge. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of Arvis Prime. We have evacuated all the people we could. The remaining population consists of civilians who cannot be moved in time. We request humanitarian consideration. We are not a military installation. We pose no threat to anyone. The Krillian response was simple. Your request is noted. Commencing territorial cleansing. The bombardment began at dawn. Elena was helping organize refugees in the underground shelters when the first explosions shook the city. She ran outside and saw fire falling from the sky. Plasma bolts designed to crack fortress shields were being used against civilian buildings. The Krillians were methodical. They targeted the largest structures first. The hospital exploded in a fireball that could be seen from orbit. The school district vanished under sustained bombardment. The spaceport, where thousands still waited for rescue ships that would never come, was obliterated. Elena ran back to the shelters. The underground bunkers were designed to withstand natural disasters, not military weapons. When the first bunker entrance collapsed, she knew they were hunting survivors intentionally. She found Maria in Shelter 12, huddled with other children. Elena held her daughter close as the ceiling began to crack. She thought about Earth, about the home they would never see again. She thought about the 400 years humanity had spent proving they could be trusted, and she thought about what a waste it had all been. The bombardment lasted 19 hours. When the Krillian ground forces landed to verify complete elimination, they found very few survivors. Those they found, they executed with efficient professionalism. No anger, no hatred, just the simple removal of an inconvenience. Commander Elena Vasquez died in Shelter 12, her body covering her daughter. Maria survived for 3 more hours before smoke inhalation claimed her. She was found holding a drawing she had made in school. It showed 2 suns setting over golden fields. The Krillian fleet broadcasted their success across standard diplomatic channels. They included footage, as they always did. It served as a warning to other species who might dispute Krillian territorial claims. The message was clear: compliance or annihilation. On Earth, President Sarah Okonkwo watched the footage in a secured room deep beneath Geneva. Her cabinet surrounded her. Military commanders, intelligence directors, and diplomatic advisors. All of them had spent careers building bridges, maintaining peace, proving humanity could be civilized. The footage showed everything. Children running through burning streets. Parents dying to shield families from plasma fire. Elderly people praying in languages from old Earth as soldiers surrounded them. 4.7 million people systematically murdered over 19 hours. The coalition? President Okonkwo asked quietly. Emergency session in 6 hours, her chief of staff replied. Early indications are not promising. The Krillians have powerful allies. Many species fear them, and us? Does anyone fear us? The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. Humanity had spent 4 centuries proving they were harmless. President Okonkwo stood and walked to a wall panel. She entered a code that only 5 people on Earth knew. The panel slid open, revealing a secure terminal. She accessed files that had not been opened in 400 years. Project Archive. The complete military history of humanity before they reached the stars. Weapons, strategies, and tactics developed by a species that had spent 10,000 years learning to kill itself with increasing efficiency. Technology that had been locked away when humanity decided to become something better. Madame President, her defense minister said carefully. Those protocols were sealed for a reason. I know, Okonkwo replied. She thought about Elena Vasquez, about Maria and her drawing. About 4.7 million reasons why 400 years of patience had failed. But the Krillians just taught us something important. They taught us that the galaxy doesn't respect civilization. It only respects strength. She activated the terminal. Across Earth, in facilities that officially didn't exist, ancient systems began to wake. Military commanders received orders that many had hoped would never come. Scientists were briefed on projects their predecessors had deliberately forgotten in the deepest vault. Beneath mountains that predated human civilization, something stirred. An artificial intelligence designed for one purpose: total warfare against enemies who threatened human existence. Its designation was simple: Reaper Protocol. 400 years of peace ended in that moment. The cultivators remembered they had once been conquerors. The gardeners recalled they had once been predators. And the galaxy, which had grown comfortable with human weakness, was about to learn a terrible lesson. Mercy was a choice. And humanity was done choosing it. When gardeners became hunters, the Galactic Coalition convened within 48 hours of the Arvis Prime massacre. Representatives from 63 species gathered in the orbital assembly station above the neutral world of Concordia. The chamber was designed to showcase unity, with each species section decorated in their cultural colors and symbols. Ambassador James Walker entered the chamber wearing black, the human mourning color. Behind him, holographic displays waited to show evidence that every being present had already seen. The Krillians had broadcasted their atrocity proudly. Walker was 73 years old. He had spent 50 years in diplomatic service, building relationships, negotiating treaties, and convincing the galaxy that humanity deserved respect. He had believed in this institution. He had believed that civilization meant something. Now he stood at the central podium and looked at faces both familiar and alien. Some species had features he could read. Others were completely foreign. But he had trained himself to understand them all. Honored representatives, Walker began. His voice was steady, controlled. 19 hours ago, the Krillian Empire attacked a civilian colony without warning or declaration of hostilities. The colony of Arvis Prime was home to 4.7 million human civilians. Scientists, teachers, artists, families, children. He paused and activated the displays. Footage played that made several representatives turn away. Even species who considered themselves above emotion found the images difficult to process. Walker let the silence speak. We invoke Article 12 of the Coalition Charter. He continued. This article provides for collective action against any member species that commits systematic atrocities against civilian populations. We ask the Coalition to hold the Krillian Empire accountable. We ask for justice. Ambassador Thraz rose from the Krillian section. His multiple eyes fixed on Walker with something that might have been amusement. The Coalition has no jurisdiction, Thraz said. His translator made his words sound reasonable, measured. Arvis Prime was built in disputed territory. The humans were warned. They chose to remain. The responsibility for those deaths belongs to Earth's government, not to the Krillian High Command. Walker felt something cold spreading through his chest. He had expected this argument. He had prepared counter-arguments based on territorial law and precedent. But as he looked around the chamber, he saw the truth in the faces of other representatives. Fear. They were afraid of the Krillians, and they were relieved it had been humans who suffered, not them. The vote came quickly. The Coalition operated on a weighted system based on military strength, economic power, and territorial holdings. Humanity, despite 4 centuries of membership, still ranked low in all categories. 42 species abstained. 15 species voted with the Krillians, citing territorial sovereignty. Only 6 species voted with humanity. The resolution failed. Walker stood at the podium as the results were displayed. He thought about everything he had built, every relationship, every compromise, every time he had smiled and accepted injustice because he believed the long game mattered. All of it was ash now, just like Arvis Prime. I understand, Walker said quietly. The Coalition has spoken. Humanity accepts this decision. He walked out of the chamber, but once he was alone in his shuttle, headed back toward the distant light of Earth's sun, he allowed himself one moment of honesty. They had made a terrible mistake. General Marcus Thompson had served in the Earth Defense Force for 40 years. He had commanded peacekeeping operations, escorted diplomatic convoys, and managed disaster relief missions. He had never fired a weapon in anger because no human military had engaged in combat operations for 400 years. Now he stood in a facility, buried beneath the Australian outback, watching screens that showed capabilities he had never imagined existed. "This is Project Reaper?" he asked. Dr. Sarah Kim nodded. She was the head of the scientific team that had maintained these systems in hibernation. When humanity first reached the stars, we made a conscious decision. We locked away everything we had learned about warfare. Every weapon, every strategy, every tactical doctrine. Why not destroy it? Because our ancestors weren't fools, Kim replied. They hoped we would never need it. But they knew that someday something might force us to remember what we truly were. Thompson studied the displays. Weapons that could disable entire fleets from light years away. Autonomous systems that could infiltrate any network. Biological agents tailored to target specific genetic markers. Kinetic weapons that could crack planets. "This is monstrous," he whispered. "Yes," Kim agreed. "But so is what happened to Argus Prime. The question isn't whether these weapons are terrible. The question is whether we're willing to use them to ensure it never happens again." Thompson thought about the footage he had seen. Elena Vasquez dying to protect her daughter. Maria's drawing of two suns over golden fields. 4.7 million people murdered while the galaxy watched and did nothing. "Activate everything," he said. Full deployment authorization. Reaper protocol came online across human space. Military shipyards that had been building cargo vessels for centuries retooled in days. Soldiers who had trained for peacekeeping received new orders and old knowledge. Scientists who had devoted their lives to terraforming suddenly found themselves designing weapons again, and in research stations hidden throughout the Sol system. Humanity began building something the galaxy had never seen before, the Krillian. Empire learned about humanity's response when their border patrol encountered a human fleet. 12 human ships appeared at the edge of Krillian space. The patrol commander, a veteran named Karash, sent the standard challenge. "Human vessels, you have entered Krillian territory without authorization. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." The human response came from Admiral Lisa Chen. "Commander Karash, this is your only warning. The Krillian Empire will answer for the massacre at Arvis Prime. Stand down." Karash clicked his mandibles in amusement. 12 ships against the might of the Krillian Empire? He ordered his fleet of 80 vessels to advance. The human ships didn't retreat. They simply waited. Then they vanished from sensors. Not destroyed, not fleeing. Simply gone. Where did they go? Karash demanded. His sensor officer's voice trembled. "Sir, they're behind us. And above us. And surrounding us. I'm detecting 300 human vessels." Karash stared at his displays. It was impossible. But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had developed stealth technology beyond anything the galaxy possessed. "All ships, open fire." Karash ordered. The Krillian fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, particle beams. Enough firepower to destroy a moon. The human ships absorbed the attack. Their shields held without strain. Then they returned fire. What happened next lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, 78 Krillian ships were disabled. Their engines dead. Their weapons offline. Their crews alive but helpless. 2 ships, including Karash's flagship, had been allowed to escape. Admiral Chen's message was simple. Go home. Tell your high command what you saw. Tell them this was a choice. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. The next battle will not be so gentle. Karash fled back to Krillian space. He reported everything. The high command did not believe him. They accused him of cowardice and incompetence. So they sent a larger fleet. 500 ships commanded by their most decorated admiral. That fleet lasted 7 minutes. The war continued for 8 months. Not because humanity needed that long to achieve victory, but because the Reaper Protocol demanded something more than simple destruction. It demanded understanding. Every battle followed the same pattern. Humanity demonstrated overwhelming technological superiority. They disabled military targets with surgical precision. They captured soldiers and released them unharmed. They destroyed weapons but spared the beings who wielded them. And through every engagement, one message repeated: civilian populations were never threatened. Krillian cities were never bombed. Krillian children never ran through burning streets. Captain David Martinez led one of the final operations. His team's mission was to board the Krillian High Command Station and capture their military leadership. The station was supposedly impregnable, defended by their best soldiers and most advanced technology. Martinez's team breached the outer hull in 23 seconds. They reached the command center in 14 minutes. They captured the High Commander and his entire staff without losing a single soldier. High Commander. Thraz stared at Martinez through the transparent walls of his holding cell. The same Thraz who had delivered the ultimatum to Lesquez. The same Thraz who had ordered the massacre. "What are you?" Thraz asked. It was the question the Krillians had been asking for 8 months. Martinez thought about his answer. He thought about his sister, who had died on Arvis Prime. He thought about the niece he would never meet, killed before she was born. He thought about 4.7 million reasons to hate the creature in front of him, but hatred wasn't why he was here. "We are what you forced us to become," Martinez said. "For 400 years we chose peace. We chose patience. We chose to prove we could be civilized. We thought the galaxy would respect that choice." He stepped closer to the cell. "You taught us we were wrong. You murdered our families. You laughed at our grief. You showed us that the galaxy only respects strength. So we stopped being what you thought we were and became what we always could be. You will destroy us now," Thraz said. For the first time, Martinez heard uncertainty in the translator's voice. "No," Martinez replied. "We could destroy you. The Reaper Protocol gave us that option. Complete extinction of your species in 90 days. Do you understand? We had the power and the justification." Thraz's multiple eyes blinked in confusion. "Then why didn't you?" "Because that would make us what you thought we were. Monsters who kill without restraint. Animals acting on instinct." Martinez shook his head. "We're not here for revenge. We're here to teach you a lesson." He activated a display showing the war's timeline. 8 months of systematic military defeat. Hundreds of battles. Thousands of ships destroyed. Millions of soldiers captured. 0 civilian casualties, Martinez said. Not one Krillian city bombed. Not one child harmed. Not one hospital destroyed. Everything you did to us, we could have done to you. We chose not to. That choice? That's what separates civilizations from monsters. Thraz was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller. What happens now? Now you rebuild, Martinez said. Without your military. Without your ability to threaten anyone. You learn to be the kind of civilization we hoped you already were. He turned to leave and paused. And every time you look at the stars, you remember. The gardeners were predators first. We chose to be gentle. We can always choose differently. The treaty was signed on a neutral station. The Krillian Empire agreed to complete disarmament, reparations spanning 3 generations, and monitoring that would last a century. They signed without argument because they finally understood fear, not the fear of death. The fear of knowing your survival depends entirely on the mercy of someone you've wronged. The galaxy watched in silence. In 8 months, everything had changed. Species that had considered humanity weak suddenly reviewed every interaction they had ever had with Earth. Intelligence agencies scrambled to understand how a peaceful civilization had hidden such capabilities for so long. Ambassador Walker returned to the coalition for the first time since the failed vote. The chamber was full. Every species wanted to hear what humanity would say. 400 years ago, Walker began, we chose to be gardeners. We believed civilization meant something. When you refused to help us, you taught us we were wrong. He activated displays showing the war's statistics. The complete military defeat of the Krillian Empire achieved while protecting their civilians. 8 months. That's how long it took us to destroy the most aggressive military power in this sector. And we did it while following rules of engagement most of you would consider absurdly generous. Walker's voice hardened. These capabilities aren't new. We've had them since before we left Earth. We chose to hide them because we hoped we'd never need them. We were gardeners because we wanted to be, not because we were incapable of being anything else. He looked around the chamber. Humanity will return to being gardeners now. We'll rebuild Arvis Prime. We'll continue to terraform dead worlds and protect endangered species. But we will never forget again. And we will never allow anyone to mistake our kindness for weakness. Walker walked out without waiting for a response. On the rebuilt Arvis Prime, a memorial stood in the central plaza. It listed every name of the 4.7 million dead. At its base, an inscription had been carved in 100 languages. We chose to be gentle. We can always choose differently. Thomas Reed, a young Krillian diplomat, stood before the memorial. He had been born after the war, raised in a society that had learned humiliation and mercy in equal measure not an elderly human approached. His nameplate read Chun Colony Administrator. I came to apologize, Thomas said, for what my people did. Chun studied him for a long moment. Your people already paid. The question now is what you'll do with the future. We want to be different. We want to be like you were before. Chun smiled sadly. That only works if everyone agrees. One side choosing peace doesn't matter if the other chooses war. He put a hand on Thomas's shoulder. But maybe your generation and ours can build something better. Thomas looked at the names stretching toward the sky. Above them, human ships patrolled silently. Gardeners in warships. Protectors in peaceful orbits. A species that had proven it could destroy. And chose instead to build. The galaxy watched, remembered, and learned. Never again would anyone mistake human kindness for human weakness. Never again.